Have you ever wondered what rights employees living with HIV have when it comes to employment? Or how far an employer can go when it comes to medical testing, especially HIV tests? Today, we're breaking down two fascinating cases that deal with HIV, employment rights, and human dignity. The first case we'll dive into is Hoffmann versus South African Airways. It deals with discrimination against an HIV-positive job applicant. The second case is Stanley Kingaipe Charles and Chukol versus the Attorney General, which looks at the issue of compulsory HIV testing in the Zambian military. Stay with us, because you'll want to hear what the courts had to say. Let's start with Hoffmann versus South African Airways. Imagine being qualified for a job and passing all the interviews, but then being rejected solely because you're HIV positive. That's what happened to Mr. Hoffmann, a candidate for a flight attendant position. He was rejected not because of his skills, but because South African Airways had a policy that excluded HIV-positive individuals from employment. The Constitutional Court of South Africa held that denying someone employment based on their HIV status is unconstitutional. They emphasized that the right to equality and human dignity is fundamental, and that people living with HIV should not be treated unfairly or discriminated against. The court pointed to the African Charter on Human and People's Rights and guidance from the International Labour Organization, both of which strongly oppose such discrimination. The court was clear: HIV status alone is not a valid reason to deny someone a job. This decision marked a significant victory for human rights in the workplace. Should Mr. Hoffmann have been reinstated to the position he was wrongfully denied due to his HIV status, the Constitutional Court of South Africa thought so. The Constitutional Court found that reinstatement, placing Mr. Hoffmann in the job he was unfairly denied, was the most appropriate relief. The court emphasized that reinstatement isn't just about giving someone their job back, it's a way to strike at the root of discrimination. It ensures that people who are wrongfully denied employment are restored to the position they would have been in had the discrimination never occurred. The court also highlighted international obligations under agreements like the African Charter and the International Labour Organization Convention to eliminate discrimination in employment. Ultimately, the court ruled that reinstating Mr. Hoffmann was necessary to redress the discrimination and send a clear message. Policies based on outdated stigma are not just wrong, they're unconstitutional and unlawful. The court ordered his employment with South African Airways, ensuring that his rights were upheld. Now let's move on to the second case, Stanley Kingaipe Charles Chukol versus the Attorney General. This case takes us to Zambia, where two servicemen in the Zambia Air Force were subjected to mandatory HIV testing without their informed consent. Both Stanley and Charles were serving in the military when they were ordered to take medical exams, including HIV tests. They weren't told what the tests were for, and there was no pre- or post-counseling, which is crucial for any medical test, especially one as sensitive as HIV. After being tested, they were unknowingly put on antiretroviral drugs. When they later discovered what had happened, they took the matter to court, arguing that their rights to privacy and dignity under the Zambian constitution had been violated. The Zambian court agreed, declaring that mandatory HIV testing without consent is a violation of human dignity and the right to privacy. The court didn't stop there. It made a profound point. Zambian courts don't operate in isolation. They look to decisions made by other senior courts around the world for guidance. In this case, the court drew from international instruments like the African Charter and the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. Informed consent is key here. The court emphasized that every person has the right to decide whether or not to undergo medical testing. The court stated that even if a test is in someone's best interest, it should still be their decision. So, what can we learn from these cases? Whether you're an employer or an employee, the message is clear. Discrimination based on HIV status is not only immoral, it's illegal. You cannot force an employee or applicant to take an HIV test without their informed consent. These rights are protected by both national laws and international human rights standards. At the end of the day, both of these cases remind us of the importance of human dignity in every aspect of life. It's a reminder that every one of us deserves respect, equality, and privacy, no matter our health status. Want to learn more about cases like these? Be sure to follow Legal Stories for more legal insight.